she always said, you can do anything you want. And I love and respect that. Two things come out of that. One, I mean, I don't know if that's completely true. You can do anything you want, right? And then it's a level of pressure. Welcome to the Hope and Hairspray podcast. I'm Rhodey Kate.
And I'm Kelly Osborne. Today, we will lead you on a journey of self-development and professional growth. You will be inspired to be the best version of who you were meant to be.
Let's jump in.
Hello. Here we are back with another great episode in our wisdom topic today, our little words of wisdom. The title is We Are Pointy. We are pointy. What do you think what's that sound to you? Does that sound?
Well, when you first said it that way to me,
yeah.
I was like, okay, wait, what? Okay. I just like all kinds of crazy, I saw a lot of elbows for some reason.
That's what you saw. Elbows, triangle points.
Yeah,
right?
I'm very, visual. So yeah, I was like, oh, where's she going with this pointy thing? But yeah, it makes sense. We are designed to be pointy. And then the other half of that statement, I think that tells it all, is we're not meant to be well-rounded. Tell us what that means, Kelly. Go.
I love busting lies, busting myths. We grow up under a lot of cultural myths, or we were told something that wasn't completely accurate, but it was passed down. But if you've ever played the telephone game, and it's never the same sentence, even just four people around. Right. So one of those, what we do here is make sure we start with truth. Yeah. We were not created to be well-rounded, but we do it all the time to ourselves, to our kids. Think about it. They bring home their report card. You have 7 grades on it, right? You're like A, B, B, A, C. Oh, we need to work on this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Do we really need, if it's passing, do we really need to work on something, or can we do better at the one that's already an A? And I know for some people, they're like, whoa.
Mothers out there are just panicking right now, and they're hanging up. Are they on the phone? I don't even know. But when they're not listening,
they're turning us off.
Yeah, they're turning us off right now.
Wait a minute. What do you mean that I need to not focus on my kids? There's one thing, lack of effort. There's a few factors involved there, but we were brought up under a myth that we need to be well-rounded. We need to be versatile. We need to be, you hear the word hybrid a lot. And I don't mind combining a couple of talents. I think there's some value in that. We talked about that on our superpower episode. But when we're talking about not being well-rounded, have you ever heard the quote, if you are good at everything, you'll never be great at your one thing?
Yeah, it's true. It's
right.
true. I mean, I think that we try to be, and then the worst, I think, is when we try to be good at everything, and that's just not humanly possible. You might, know a little bit about lots of things potentially, but to be good at everything, it doesn't make sense, and it's not necessary. Because when we talk about CliftonStrengths and we say, what are your natural talents? We really believe, and that's not just Kelly and I mean, like any certified strength coach that's been certified through Gallup will say it is all about understanding your natural talents, because you will get to that destination, as will someone else. You'll just do it differently. We don't have to get there in the same way or with the same methodology. So I think when you understand that aspect, I think it's easier to understand. But as parents, we want our kids to be good at everything. And, they just may not be, but it's hard. There's a lot of pressure around the academics aspect. I get that.
Absolutely. We talk also in strengths language about modes of transportation, right? Strengths is a performance evaluator, and it's like finding what mode of transportation that you would like to get from A to B. Think of all the different ones. I mean, and rare ones like horses and rickshaws and skateboards, and not just normal ones. But I have a strength called a ranger. And so I would get on a bullet train, get there as fast as I can. I'll figure out when I get there. but you have a strength of futuristic and strategy.
Yeah.
So what would you take?
Well, I would want to get up high somehow, so I would like a gondola, one of those, not a gondola like in Paris and in Venice, but like one of those mountaintops where you can look down, because then I can see the path. And so as strategic and even futuristic, anything that gets me high off the ground, I think that would be a good way for me to get there.
A great view. So you can form a plan.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's just figuring out what type of mode of transportation suits you best, right? And drive more of that.
Right.
Right. We are created to be in community with each other. And just like if a body was all elbows, right?
That is what I envisioned.
Nowhere. So think of a great big puzzle. Right? Puzzle pieces have indents and they have arms and they have corners and edges. We're pointy like that because we're meant to fit together. We talk about our strengths being opposite in a lot of areas. We have core values that are very similar, but our strengths fit together. Where I have the concave, you actually fill in the gaps, and I don't have to be good at that.
Right.
Why should I try to be good at something that you're great at?
Right.
Why not just connect with you so that we can form a better team and represent those strengths better?
Yeah. And that's really, we talk a lot about being better together, and certainly been an episode or two that speaks to that. And so if you let go of the need to be good at everything, I think, one, you give yourself a break and you can just take a deep breath. And secondly, I think it opens you up to see what other people are good at, or see where you can get that particular help from, right? You don't have to do it yourself. There's a tool to do that. Or you don't have to do it yourself because there's someone else who can do that for you, right? I think that's kind of what happens when you think about, we don't have to be good at everything.
It's such a sigh of relief. It reminds me when I had my husband take his CliftonStrengths, and he was like, "Sure, babe, I'll take your cute little personality quiz," right?
I can see
not it at all, but he's so supportive. Anything I do, he is the wind under my wings. Like, he is my biggest fan. And so he took it, and he had some truth about himself of what he does well. But then he looked at the bottom of the report and he was like, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Like, I've been told I'm not good at this and I'm not good at that. And then he's like, you're right. I'm not.
I mean, right? Just no stress. I'm not. Okay.
What a relief.
Yeah. I think I sometimes, for those of you women out there who have sisters, you get it. And those that maybe have adopted sisters along the way that you don't really have them, you get it too. But I know every once in a while I'm talking to my sister, and we just get in that sisterly way. She's like, "Well, you're not good at that." I'm like, "No, I'm not." I sometimes do that because you're going. I'm like, "Well, I'm not good at that." I mean, right. I'm a rock star, which means I live like a rock star, and means I want to throw everything all around and hope someone comes up behind me and cleans up, right?
Oh, that's what you mean by rock
that's what I mean by rock star. I cannot sing. I can't do anything like that. All I do is leave a mess. And so she's like, "You're so messy." I'm like, I know. I don't think she knows sometimes what to do with that.
But there's freedom in that.
Yeah,
like, if you have columns, like, it's very easy for you and I. We know our strengths pretty well. This is what I'm good at. And then this is what I'm not good at. And we kind of laugh in that, but it is so freeing because, I don't know, have you ever seen the movie Rudy?
It's been a long time.
Years. Sean Astin, he wanted to be a football player, right? So bad did he want to be a football player at Notre Dame, I think. I could be wrong. But his passion then, on a scale 1 to 5, was a 5, right? His talent on a scale 1 to 5 was a 1.
Right.
So 1 times 5 is still 5.
Yeah.
Right. He just didn't have the talent. Like, I cannot be an NBA basketball player.
Right.
Right. It's just that confidence. I know I can't be that. I'll start the list on the things that I'm not good at, but it's out of a sense of freedom. Right. And Gallup defines weakness is anything that gets in your way of success, right? So it's not that I ignore them. If they are impacting my success, and success is an individual decision.
What you want to
definition.
accomplish, right? The results you're looking for. Mhm.
Right. That is not right. I'm making sure, like, if it gets in my way, then I need to manage that. Right. Then I need some
Tools to help you.
Need some tools, need some coaching, need some good feedback loops that are instituted in my life. It's not that, but you just got to try it. It's super freeing to be comfortable in the things you're not good at. Like, I love that your sister doesn't know what to do. You're just like, no, of course not. I'm horrible at that.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's really, really bad. Yeah. And I think back to my mom. So, she's been gone. I was 19, so it's been years. And she always said, well, you can do anything you want. And I love and respect that. Two things come out of that. One, I don't know if that's completely true. You can do anything you want, right? And then it's a level of pressure. Like, oh, I can do anything. What can I? Because I was that person. Like at 17, I was going to be 6 different legitimate jobs. From lawyer to artist to like advertising exec to realtor. I was all over the board, and there's a couple I still can't remember what I was going to be, but I know there were 6 because I found proof on someone writing to me, are you still looking at those 6 things you want to be? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that. But like I could be anything I wanted. And so then I just couldn't really narrow things down, and it was really hard for me. But also to say you can be anything, and if it's not true, then we know we like to start with the truth, right? So the truth is there's some things you probably can't be. However, the positivity in me, that's hard to take. But then the positivity means is, okay, so you can't be an NBA superstar, but if you have a love of basketball, how can you corral that? What can you do? Can you be, a manager? Can you, get season tickets? Whatever it is that one would do around that so that you can embrace and enjoy your passion. Or maybe redefine what that looks like.
Sure. It's don't ignore your passion.
Right.
Definitely. I have no desire to be an NBA player. So that's one thing. There's no passion and there's no talent.
Right.
Right. But if you have a passion in something, that doesn't mean you can't give it some energy.
Right.
Right. And check it out. But also, I love what you always say is there's more than one way to get there.
There's always
right. So could you be a trainer, be a season ticket holder, be an announcer?
Right.
Like what else in that field? But it all boils down, we say this every time, the truth about self. You've got to figure out where your passion and talents intersect.
Right.
Right.
And then before that, I think what you said, that myth busting is you letting go of, or busting, or whatever you want to call it, the fact that, or the pressure that says you've got to be good at everything.
Yeah. No, you don't. Please don't.
Right.
We don't have long lives, right? We're not here forever. Mm-hmm. So can you, instead of being anything you want to be, can you be the best version of who you were created to be?
Right. And in all fairness, that is what we do every day. That is our passion, is to provide the process and the guide for women so that they can be the best version of who they were meant to be. And if you recall on one of our coaching circles, right, this is a experience where we meet every month, and it's a small group of women where we really are able to focus on the individual, but in a group setting so they can learn from each other. The power, we know, it's just amazing.
So
but
good.
Someone recently just said, once I looked at the bottom, like your husband, once I looked at the bottom, I was like, one, wow, I don't have to worry about that. But her next thing that she said, if you recall, she said, and then I'm sad of all the time that I wasted worrying and working on those things that I was never going to be good at. What could I have done focusing on the things that I am good at? How much further could I go on? What could have I invented? As she said, she's a bit of an inventor, right? So, anyway, what could I have done, or what could have created and built is probably the better question. So, I think it's really important to sort of let that go and understand. But when she said that, I was like, yep, I could see, right?
Yeah.
I'm sad about like the time that I spent on something that I wasn't really good at naturally and probably didn't want to be.
Sure.
I mean, it didn't fit her, right?
Sure.
So I think that's something that sort of helps to put it in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, but to be brutally honest with yourself, and again, goes back to your circle. Ask your circle, what do you see I'm good at? When we've talked about this on previous episodes, but when we were pursuing a big venture development project that we were working on for a few years, and we just couldn't come to terms with the seller. And I had to step back and I wasn't in the best space, right? Like I helped people figure out what they were meant to do. And I had to go to my circle. So sometimes you're in a transition space, right? A lot of women might be switching careers. They might be empty nesters. So they're like, oh, what's next? If you find yourself in a transition, which is a lot of our client base, they're looking to grow in an area or transition into a new area.
Go back to work after maybe taking care of kids, or, in some case, some of the hardest ones are those that are going to step out of work, right? And they're like, I want to stay with the kids. What that's a big transition. And we certainly help a lot of those women sort of work that out because they've got to, adjust things, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But even I, who this is what I do,
It is.
had to take a step back and consult people in my circle. Wow, my path was going this way, and I was pretty sure it was going to go that way. And now it's stopped. That path is ended. Like it's the end of the road. And I wasn't in the best space to, sometimes you can't self-reflect. You need other people to kind of help you. And I pulled my inner circle. Like, what am I good at? What are my natural talents? Because that was how low it felt during that time for me.
I recall.
It was tough.
It was tough.
It was really tough to let go of a dream where people were following you with that dream. But I needed to not be in a space where I would just go back to just doing a little bit of everything. Right? I needed to get more direct than ever. People sometimes have trouble with decisive decisions. Like the door has closed, but they may not like what the decision was, but sometimes those are easier, right? That road, like the end of the tracks.
It closed, right? You can't
Doors
get through
closed, right? Like it didn't happen, whether it happened with you or without you, being a part of that. But use those. It's a mindset. How do you view those? What am I going to do with that? I could have just said, you know what? I'm just going to retire. I'm just going to be done now. Right. And not, no, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, one, you wouldn't have done that. And two, I'm so glad you didn't, because now we're here together and I really needed someone. I needed that other half, because I am pointy and there are things that I do particularly well, but then there's this whole things that I don't do well. And I think it's also hard when you realize you don't do something particularly well. And maybe it's part of your job to do, And so then it's like for me being in a corporate environment, right? Execution is really a important aspect of what you're doing, your implementation, et cetera. And that's really not one of my domains that I excel at. So I had to figure out other ways, because the end result is still implementation or execution or getting the results that you want, launching something, following up with something. But I just had to use other tools and other strengths and talents to get me so that we did implement and we were successful and we did get that feedback, that said. So it takes a minute that you have to really step back and say, okay, but I'm glad you did.
So am I. So am I. It was an opportunity, right? And most opportunities can lead to growth or lead to the opposite, unfortunately.
Well, and so this reminds me of you. Where were you a year ago? I mean, you really stepped back a year ago to look at your natural strengths and your talents and what your strengths were and your passion of what you wanted to do and refocus. So think about where you were 365 days ago and where you are right now. Like, I bet it was like a wild dream for you to be doing podcasts. Let me make sure everybody understands. It was never a dream of mine. This is not me.
She's not here willingly. I have a gun under the table. No, just kidding.
It is bad. Anyway, however, it was really important to you, right? And it made sense for what we do. It totally made sense. It just wasn't kind of my thing. But I think back to where you were a year ago.
Yeah.
And then you really stopped and said, let me just kind of look at everything. Let me go back. Let me look forward. So how does that feel? I mean, crazy.
It's interesting because I'm super comfortable with my strengths, what I do well and what I don't do well. But when you go through a door shutting, like everybody needs that regroup. Like give yourself permission to be like, no, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm good at. Recalibrate. And other doors open up that I could not imagine. It is a dream come true being here, doing a podcast with you. I think Josh, our producer, tried to get us to do a podcast like 4 years ago. Right. And he's futuristic.
And
so, but so are you.
No, I know, but this is not my thing. He did say that. And I was just like, what in the world are we going to talk about? I don't really understand. I mean,
what
I
are
don't
we
know.
going to talk about?
I know what was wrong with me. I mean, seriously, do we ever stop? It's kind of scary. We can have a philosophical conversation and then the next day start it all over again because we've got a different angle we want to go down. But yeah, I think about like where you were and well, I wasn't even there at that moment. Like you went and you spent some time, reflective time. What we tell women all the time to do is take that break. That's why we call our sabbaticals because you take a break. You took that break and you spent a couple of days really thinking about you. How selfish. Yeah. Don't you hear that? Have you heard people say that? And when someone says, I took 2 days. I was in corporate setting. We went to a convention, okay? And it was in Florida. So nice weather. And this woman said she came in a day before and she put something on social media and literally the response was like, what do you mean you're taking a day before the conference? I mean, seriously, like got some pushback. And so the whole audience, she shared the story, the whole audience, and there were probably 3,000 of us in there cheered and clapped for her. But I was like, how sad is that? And of course, there's me and my counterpart like, yeah, we came in 2 days before and we had a margarita last night and I feel really good and you can say anything you want, but I know I need to get away from the day to day and then I need to spend time on my craft. I can do both, right? The power of and. So,
absolutely.
But isn't that crazy that people have that reaction? That's weird. So I'm glad you did it.
Tighten up your truth filter.
Yeah.
Know what's true. And we'll do a whole podcast on one of our truth filter activities. So we've talked a lot today about how we're not well-rounded. We are pointy, right? We take different modes of transportation to get there, right? There's more than one way to get there, not just in the transportation, but in the thought process, in the technique, who you take with you. There's lots of ways to get there. I know at our sabbatical just last week, we had a guest say, well, I can't do this. And you immediately just responded to her, well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you just need a guide, and that's what we do. We make things, when we facilitate, we make them easier. And we give space. So I'm sorry that lady got
Isn't that awful?
Feedback because you took a minute for yourself.
I mean, seriously.
But you make such a bigger impact on other people's lives when you have margin. There's no tyranny of the urgent, right? And you can find out the truth about your talents, what you bring to the table, how you want to position them. Right? Because we're spread too thin. That goes back to being well-rounded. When you're well-rounded, you're spread too thin because you're giving 2% to 50 areas. Could you imagine if you gave 50% to 2 areas?
No, yeah, you would go really far in those areas. Absolutely.
Really far. Really far. So what should our listeners do this week, today, this month, that they can take practical application to the fact that we are pointy
and not well-rounded. I mean, I think from a Mythbuster perspective, I would probably, and this is me, I'd have a big marker that I could see and a big white piece of paper, and I would in big letters say what I'm good at and then not, and what I'm not good at, and I would hang it up and I would be proud of that. And I would just, of course, I'd probably not, I'm creative, not necessarily artistic, so I'd probably do something that looks like I was a person that wasn't well-rounded, like Pointy somehow. I don't know that bunch of elbows. I'm not sure what that means.
Little puzzle piece.
Something.
Right.
Yeah, maybe the puzzle piece. That'd be so much easier.
Puzzle man.
Yeah, that'd be so much easier. But just something that really kind of reminded me for a while that I'm not supposed to do everything well, right? And I think for those people that are maybe, I hate to say this word, perfectionists, and I have this conversation a lot with my beautiful, lovely niece. And she is a recovering perfectionist. She's really working on that. She knows it and she talks about it. But I think especially for those people is to really embrace what you can't do and just own it and say it out loud. And I mean, I think that's the first step is sort of knowing and acknowledging. And then, I don't know, that's what I would say. It's kind of, I mean, this is a little bit of a mindset because you have to agree with or believe in that it's okay to be pointy and not well-rounded.
Absolutely. So celebrate your untalents.
Yes, ring them from the rooftops, right?
It is so freeing.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for somebody to accuse you of it, just get a head start.
That is my strategy. You know that.
Just get a head start. You always say, get a running start.
Yeah, like a running start. I'm
just
going to tell you.
head them off, but then celebrate it. Permission to be okay with the things you're not good at, right? Unless it's preventing you from your goals, preventing you from the success.
That's a different conversation. Yeah,
Right. That's totally different. Totally different. Because there's things that get in my way that actually are my strengths. Sometimes they can be in the basement. We talk about that. They're not operating at a level.
Right.
So that's a whole different conversation as well. But celebrate the things that you're good at. Celebrate the things that you're not so gifted in, and that it's okay.
Yeah. I think you'll feel a sense of release, release and relief that you can say, "Oh, it's okay. I'm not good at that," and who cares? Like, what does it matter?
Yeah, definitely. Just be the best version of who you were created to be. We'll see you next time.